Gonna work on attaching the skirt to the bodice. I'm leaving an open back for right now. So remember that the top of the skirt is the one where this little V is cut out of the center front. And you should also have those triangle notches for center back of your skirt. So we're gonna start with doing a gather stitch at about a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across the top of the skirt. So to get that, we're just going to put our length all the way to as long as it will let us go. Sew it about at a 1/4 inch or right at the edge of that presser foot. Okay, I went ahead and did 2 gather stitches. I'll tell you why. One of them I lined up with this line on the presser foot, and then the other one I lined up with just outside the presser foot, so that they never touch or cross, but they're still both within that 5/8 seam allowance. So I like to do 2. One, because this is a really long stretch of fabric, so if one of the strings breaks, you still have a backup. I also really am a big fan of using 2 gather stitches on really thick fabrics, just for that same reason, because if one of those threads breaks, you still have a backup thread. And I think it's worth the extra time because they break often. So to gather, you're going to start by grabbing both of them at the same time. It doesn't matter which side of the fabric you start on, but whatever side you do choose to start on, you're going to want to make sure that you're gathering from the same side on the other end of the fabric. So this one I'm going to gather to about the middle, and then I'm going to start gathering from the other side. I'm going to choose to do it from my right side of the fabric, which is this side. But if you start pulling from the strings that are on the wrong side of your fabric, you're going to want to do the same to the other side. It doesn't matter which, you just have to be consistent on both sides. So I'm going to grab both ends and just pull. Okay, it's going to start gathering, and just work that gather all the way to the center of your fabric. Alrighty, so you've gathered about half of it. So I'm going to switch to the other side, just making sure that I pull the strings from the same side that I chose to pull from before. One thing to be careful about is going over the seam. Just take it slow. It's better to take it slow and be patient than have your thread break and have to start it all over again. Hey there, bodice, we've missed you. Once you have gathered the whole top of your skirt, you're going to find the right side of the fabric, and you're going to find that center. I should have done this before I pushed record. Okay, you're going to find that center of the, and you're going to match up the right side of the fabric. So the side I want showing is this side. Put that side on the right side of your bodice, and right down there on that point. So you should have that inverted triangle of your bodice touching the triangle, or inverted triangle of your skirt touching the triangle of your bodice here. And then you're just going to match it up along. All right, and then a couple things to note as you are pinning the skirt to the bodice. If you already have lining in, be sure that you're only pinning it to the outside layer and leave the lining completely separate. And then you're going to want to match up the French seam that you did on the side of the skirt to the side of the bodice. Don't get it confused with where the dart of the bodice is, because it sort of looks like a French seam. So don't get it confused with the dart. Be sure that that French seam of the skirt lines up with the side seam of your bodice. It should look like that. All right, once it's all pinned to the bodice, you're going to go ahead and attach it with those back stitches and at that 5/8 seam allowance.